Welcome back to another episode of the Corporate Cowboys podcast. My name is Alex. As always, there's been a couple of days since our last upload. So, for proof of life, today is Monday, March 20, 2023. And you are listening to Season 8, Episode 11 of the Corporate Cowboys podcast, where we take 30 minutes. Actually, you take 30 minutes of our time for free. You can treat this as a consult of sorts. I like to imagine it's as if I'm in my office one day. What I'm doing, during my lunch is have somebody walk in and ask me a question off the cuff, something that we can go back and forth on. Granted, we don't have this hypothetical client in front of us, but you can put yourself in the hypothetical client's shoes, for lack of a better option, right? If you don't have a circle of associates that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can talk corporate shop, then you've got us, where we try to cultivate more corporate cowboys. We're stand up guys. We just have criminal minds, right? We're associates necessarily incorporating associates, right? That's our namesake. Associates incorporating associates. Today's question is coming from r/slash career advice. And they're asking, do you think it's fair to say that your manager doesn't care about you if he doesn't talk to you very much? Hmm, that's odd. That's odd. Again, we don't know who our hypothetical client is. We don't know their age. We don't know their background. We don't know their gender, age, sex, location. We don't know any of that, right? So we don't know what industry they're in, whether or not they require constant contact, um, constant communication in terms of feedback and instruction, because we might as well just have opened a question that says, is it safe to say your manager is up your ass if they're constantly talking to you, right? If they're if they're alleging their manager is micromanaging their every move, right? The body to this one says, for example, where I work, I honestly feel like my manager is non existent. I feel like I'm never monitored. I never receive feedback, etc. Hmm, okay. Okay. And that's kind of what I listed in the beginning, where if they're not necessarily being watched, being monitored, being given feedback, are they a good manager? Does the manager care about them? And their last paragraph here is just a question. It's asking, do you think it's fair to assume that my manager doesn't care about me? LOL? Question mark. LOL. Okay. Okay. Personally, I mean, I would always say it depends. Given that the body to this question is so short, it's so small, we don't have all of the facts. We don't have all of the details to get a complete picture and be able to inform our opinion, right? Because first, I want to ask why they even care. Why they care whether or not their manager likes them. Is their manager someone they should be seeking approval from beyond just satisfactorily completing with their job duties and collecting that check, right? Is their manager somebody who maybe they've identified as a person of opportunity, let's call it? If they are moving like a corporate cowboy, have they identified their manager as a potential prospect, as a string to pull, shall we say, as a lever to actuate, shall we call it, right? Why else would they even care that their manager is non existent, quote unquote, It's obvious they report to somebody. They know they have a manager, even if they don't see them often. Now, this could present some opportunities as far as appearances and presentation to the manager themselves, given what kind of professional our hypothetical client wants the manager to see in them, right? Do they want to attract the manager's attention? I mean, obviously, there is a positive and negative way of doing so. You either do a good job, a great job, an extraordinary job. You go above and beyond the extra mile in order to get a shout out by the manager, or you could do an absolutely abysmal job and get called out by the manager. So there, you have your options. You have your options in terms of how to pursue this attention and then what to do with it. Again, this is higher level thinking. Very few clients actually approach us with these types of questions that lend themselves to strategic planning and strategic action. Now, that's not to say that clients we've had in the past aren't shooting for the stars. Some just don't know what they're aiming at. But they all want to improve ultimately. They all have that base aspiration of becoming better, which is why they even reach out to us in the first place. If you find yourself in a situation like that, in a position where you believe you can do better, you aspire to be promoted, you aspire to make more money, be better compensated, to negotiate your worth and better navigate the corporate ladder. It doesn't always mean you're going up. Sometimes you're going diagonally. Sometimes you're moving laterally. Sometimes you're exfiltrating yourself from the organization to move like an independent contractor. Essentially, elevating yourself to the level of the organization where you can negotiate at an arm's length, you yourself as a professional, with the organization and their legal department, their executives, which could have you commanding more money, could have you commanding a better title, could have you commanding more responsibility, could have you commanding the respect you deserve as a professional. Now, you find yourself in a position like that, by all means. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. You can DM us, contact us directly. It's at Corporate Cowboys with a Z. We're on Instagram. We're on Patreon also. It's the Corporate Cowboys Podcast. Find us on Rumble. Find us on YouTube. You want to donate to us, keep this podcast nonprofit, by all means, do that. You know, the money that we receive goes to business expenses and legal fees, right? We're buying stationery and legal pads and, you know, paperweights. You can write to us also, P.O. Box 3372, Rancho Cordova, California, 95741, right? So you want to ask, our hypothetical client is asking if it's fair to say, if it's fair to assume, again, we're making an assumption here because we don't know what tasks, what obligations, what objectives our hypothetical client even has. They could be bottom of the barrel, entry level. They could be a red shirt at Target, right? Just walking the floor, just a basic Target team member, right? just using them as an example. And they're expecting the CEO to pay attention to them, to give them the time of day, right? It's a lot more reasonable that they would expect their immediate manager, their direct supervisor, to pay attention to what they're doing as an employee, give them feedback on how to improve and whatnot. That makes some sense. But when you're in this position of a subordinate, of a support associate, we'll call it, right? A support position. You have a manager to report to. Your manager doesn't report to you, right? So you shouldn't so much expect that your manager communicates with you on this level of friendliness as much as you should expect orders, because shit, that's what you signed up for when you signed on the line. When when you signed up to work for corporate, you knew what level you were coming in with. You knew what level you were coming in on. That's entry level, right? Or at least some subordinate position where you would be reporting to someone else. Now, I'm saying all of this to now come full circle and address the hypothetical client as the professional they are striving to appear like, right? It's not always about fake it until you make it. Sometimes you have to be it in order to make it. It's not just about dressing for the job you want. Get the fuck out of here with that. It's about moving in the direction you want to be in. Moving in the direction towards what you are striving to become. You got to move professionally. And to do that, you are the one who has to ask for feedback. It's not many organizations that have drawn out, really fleshed out, sponsored, subsidized professional development programs. Very few, far in between, really care about developing their employees professionally in order to promote them. Sure, they might give you that lip service that we promote from within. So there's a pathway to, I don't know, training to become promoted and become a manager or whatever. More often than not, and I've seen it, I've seen it personally and through clients, it's based on seniority. It could be based on preferential treatment, on favoritism, on nepotism, even, right? If it's a quote unquote family business where motherfuckers just start recruiting from their own families and giving them positions of power, positions of seniority without actually having earned them. It happens. It's not uncommon. So, setting yourself up, going out of your way to request this feedback should be a priority to you if that's what you're worried about. But if you want the manager to stop by your cubicle, just an example, or the manager to stop what they're doing if they see you in the break room and come suck your dick, that's a little harsh, right? If you want the manager to come over and pat you on the head, right? Don't expect that. Don't expect that. That could come because it's not even guaranteed. That may be warranted by an exceptional job that you're performing, an exceptional job you're doing. But that's not going to be just because you're in need of a friend or you're in need of some type of counseling. That's what you've got us for. Now, a disclaimer right after that is that none of what we say, none of what we convey across the airwaves or any of the content we put out with the corporate Cowboys ought to be construed, none of it ought to be construed as legal advice, right? We do not condone any wrongdoing nor any wrongful activity. We are not promoting any of it. And our hypothetical client here hasn't asked us for any of that either. So we won't even speak on it really. If anything, this podcast is meant to have you, the hypothetical client, think that your manager isn't so much your friend as they are your manager, as they are your boss. You willfully signed the dotted line to work under them, or you agreed at least that you would work in your position, that you would know, you would play your part and know your role as a support associate, as a in a support role, right? So your manager could leave tomorrow and you might have a new manager the next day. What, you expect them to stop by and be like, "Hey, Alex, just popping in, letting you know that I'm new and you'll be seeing me from time to time. How was your weekend?" And then fucking next week, the same thing. Is that what you want? You just want some type of affection? Don't expect that from a manager. Don't expect it. Again, it may be warranted, but that's only at the manager's discretion. You take care of business first, and any affection you receive will be because business is taking care of you. That has been a common theme throughout the life of this podcast. One of many common themes. You take care of business, business will take care of you. Point blank. Let me read a couple of these questions for you here, where I would imagine because this is Reddit, some of the answers are going to be a little bit more informed by emotion. But again, if you are striving, if you are an aspiring, consummate professional, emotions might be the second to last thing on your mind, just above death. You want to move professionally, and to do that, you have to be calm, cool, collected, calculating, not emotional. You must know how to use emotion, right? You must know how to express yourself with some passion, but not act from emotion. If anything, you must learn how to elicit emotion because it's one of the many non-verbal languages that actually lets you know what's going through someone's mind or what a, a group of individuals are thinking or conspiring, cooking up to act on. Again, that's all higher level social psychology action items that clients pay for, right? But because this is a free consultation, we're not going to go down every single avenue, especially in a fact pattern this short, where we don't have the ability to interview the hypothetical clients and ask them these questions. The first comment here says, it in response to, "Do you think it's fair to assume that my manager doesn't care about me? LOL." The first comment responds with, "Not necessarily. The best boss I ever had was a grumpy sod, but he'd go for bat for you when shit hit the fan." Okay, that's just poorly written, but I don't know. Using sod, they might be a British, so whatever. The second comment here says, "As many of the others have said, I suspect that the boss has nothing to say to you because you're doing a good job." You see, there's always that assumption. If you're not in that fucking hot seat, that means you're doing all right, right? But that only means you're doing all right. If the boss isn't talking to you, congratulating you, it doesn't mean It also means you're not impressing him or them or her. Fucking cares, right? It means you're not impressing your boss. Now, that doesn't mean that you want to take on additional responsibilities and pick up other motherfuckers' slack without compensation. But there are ways, if we had additional details, there are ways to move within your organization to be noticed. There are things that could be done to be noticed by your manager, and potentially, if it's your intention, get in their good graces. So this comment continues. I suspect the boss has nothing to say to you because you are doing a good job. I am a boss, and my good employees I leave alone to do their jobs because I have no complaints. I have enough problem children and stress to deal with. You reminded me I need to tell them they are doing a good job tomorrow. You see, that's a good boss. That's a good boss, right? If they're doing a good enough job, tell them that. Now, it could be that your manager is also new, fresh. Again, these are questions that we would ask. How old the manager is? Do they know the background of the manager? Cultural, even, because in some cultures, yeah, if they don't talk to you, they're satisfied with their relationship with you. If they're constantly in your ear, in other cultures, that might mean you're doing a good job. Why? Because you can juggle having to interact and service this boss as well as your job duties. Now, that depends on the type of boundaries you have as a person and as a professional, just like it depends on the boundaries your boss keeps. They may be one of those who isn't so in touch with their compliment side and just handing out compliments like candy. Shit, to them, sugar might be bad for your diet. So they give or hand out compliments very rarely. But when they hand them out, it's because they're impressed. Again, we don't know. But these are questions that we would ask the hypothetical client. I'm in these episodes over the course of this podcast, I'm laying out a blueprint for you in 30 minutes time because every case is unique and we approach every client case to case given what the client is asking, given what the client's objectives are, and given the resources the client has to utilize. Again, these are all questions we would be asking. We don't just have one template that fits every client's needs. It's not possible. We might have a template to ask them, certain biographical data about their background. So we have an idea, we have a starting point, but that's nothing if you don't have the hypothetical client, if you don't have this client in front of you to be asking questions in real time and follow up questions to become better informed. I mean, it's just 30 minutes of me apparently ranting about what I would do as a corporate cowboy, which is totally fine if you hear it because I suppose that's how subconscious learning works, right? You hear it enough, you could potentially become it. You are liable to move like a corporate cowboy from here on out. This third and final comment, not the final one, but it's going to be the final one for this episode because we're burgeoning on 30 minutes. This comment says, as a manager myself, I can say it's very easy to neglect your high performing employees. Stress can get to me just like anyone else, and it's a relief to know they can handle their work without me. But that's not the right thing to do. I have to be very conscious about taking the time to check in with them, letting them know they are on the right path, giving them exposure for the good things they're doing, and making sure they have access to all the tools they need. Now, me, Alex, I also have managerial experience. I've been a manager a number of times. The reason I don't speak so much about my experience as a manager is because I'm speaking as a professional, first and foremost. I'm addressing the client almost as if from the perspective of the client. Again, because we don't have the hypothetical client in front of us to be talking to be interviewing. And so when I bring up the fact that organizations are rare, or rare are the organizations, rare is the organization that cares deeply about its subordinates' professional development, right? Because in the organizations I've been in, I have actually instituted development programs where I can check in with my employees, let them know what they're doing right, let them know what they could work on. Not so much doing wrong, because if they were doing something absolutely wrong or positively wrong, the business would be suffering. It would objectively be suffering. So you never want to put your employees down outright. You want to let them know how they can improve, how they could develop professionally. That's the whole point of these programs. So if your manager isn't doing even that, checking in with you, one could argue, one could argue and or assume that they don't care about your professional development. They might care about you as a person, right? They might care about you as a person, which is why they may not be invading your space, micromanaging you. But as far as professional development goes, it's apparent, or so it appears. Like they're more than happy just keeping you in the position you're in now, and not promoting you any further. You're doing a good job. They've got no complaints, or else they would be writing you up or letting you know they have complaints about your work. But if you're not hearing any of that, if you're not hearing anything, then the burden falls to you. And it's not really a burden when you think about it. You have the advantage. You are moving from a perceived position of inferiority as a subordinate. When in reality, you have nothing to lose. You have everything to gain. How little you've talked to your manager lets you know how little your manager knows about you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a blank slate. Do with that what you will as a corporate cowboy. I'm pretty much going to end it here, but one last time I want to invite you to share this podcast with your close associates, with your friends, with your family. Might be a somewhat inflammatory, flagrant closing, but you were born into this shit. You're in the middle of a corporate war. The sooner you realize it, the sooner you can get to work. Talk about red pill this, blue pill that. Dog, you've been taking the blue pill. If you're listening to this, you have a job. And if you have a job, you have a motherfucking job. And that's to become better, to be better, to develop yourself when others don't care or may not care about your development. This is a corporate war and everything goes. Your life is on the balance of somebody not caring about whether or not you survive tomorrow because there's 20 other Alexes lined up out the door, quote unquote. I got a line out the door of people who want your job. When in reality, that's not true. It's not true. You already have the job. You're already working. If that were the case, they would have brought somebody in and have you train them. There's mathematics around that. They could pay you another dollar as a trainer to train somebody else while they hire them for less money. And then when you train them, they boot you out the door and continue to save on this new hire. But they are not doing that. They're not doing that. Why? Because this notion of moving like a corporate cowboy, very few people do it. The ones who actually do it sometimes don't need our help. Sometimes they do. So if this wakes you up, again, but what I just spit like 2 minutes ago, straight facts. I've seen it happen. I've been a part of it. And the fact that few people think like this, or it's just, I guess, it's classified as higher level thinking. Really, it's just a matter of asking the right questions in order to inform a strategy on how to get ahead. How to get ahead. Because everybody is entry level forever. Everybody really is entry level. Nobody's fucking safe. Sure, the world is lined with paper contracts, but it's who you are as a professional that matters. Not even a person, really. When we're talking legalities, it's how you move professionally. Business is war. Wake up. You're in the matrix. Learn to move within it. Become a corporate cowboy. Have a nice one. I'll catch you next time.